Good evening. We'll begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. I invite you to join us. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, please.
Gehrig.
Here.
Grinberg.
Here.
Pepcorn.
Here.
Strand.
Here.
Mahoney.
Here. The Forestry Division has started its winter pruning operations between now and mid-April. Approximately 6,500 street trees are scheduled to be pruned by the city certified arborists and staff, another 2,100 by contract staff. Most pruning is completed in the winter while the tree is dormant, which is a better time, and it's easier to see the structure, identify specific pruning needs, and it eliminates the risk for potential disease spread such as Dutch elm. Health. Flu season is in full swing, but it's not too late to get the flu shot. Receiving the annual vaccine is the best way to reduce your risk of getting sick for seasonal flu and spreading it to others. Our public health has flu vaccine available for residents 6 months and older. Inspection Department. The Inspections Department suggests considering additional safety features in your building construction project which can prevent injuries due to unexpected or unforeseen emergencies. The building code is the minimum requirements for new constructions. For flooding situations, consider adding sewer shutoff valves, backflow preventers, and emergency backup for sump pumps. Another additional safety feature includes storm shelter or safe room in the event of high winds or tornado. There are other design suggestions at FEMA.gov that can help or talk to your contractor. With minimal added cost, you can protect your home and family. Thanks, Inspection Department. Library. There are several interesting library programs and events the next couple of weeks, including the annual Lego Mania Design Contest for kids in the main library on December 30th, and the Frozen New Year's Party for kids and family of all ages December 31st at the main library. Police. Chief Todd and others traveled recently to Bismarck to present a proposal to the North Dakota Peace Officer Training Academy Board for Fargo to have its own police academy. With the staff of 210 and 185 sworn officers on average, the Fargo Police Department hires about 20 sworn officers per year, and like all other departments, they have found hiring and recruiting certified officers to be an increasing challenge. Therefore, the need is there to be innovative in recruiting and hiring strategies. If Fargo had its own academy, onboard training could be incorporated into the curriculum. The board was impressed with the curriculum put together for the presentation and gave the Fargo provisional approval to move forward on its own academy. This is a major step for any city police department and will give Fargo the advantage in recruiting and hiring competition. Now, Chief Todd says he'll bring a presentation to us as well to show you what it's going to do and the advantages of having this type of academy in Fargo. It's great for recruiting, and we have a great team that will be teaching them, so we feel that they'll be ready or quicker ready to be in the police force as they go through the academy. So Chief Todd will give that to us in the next couple of months to show us what you're going to do. As you may have heard, Craig Whitney, President and CEO of the Fargo-Moorhead West Fargo Chamber of Commerce, died Saturday. He had been with the Chamber since 2010, where he brought together a coalition of more 2,000 public, private, and nonprofit groups. The entire community of Fargo mourns the loss of Craig Whitney while offering our thoughts and prayers to his family and friends. Craig was a visionary leader who helped unite and advocate for the entire metro area over the past decade. A tireless communicator, his tenure will be marked by success, growth, and community building. I will miss his steady leadership and calm demeanor. He helped us very much in the diversion of obtaining funds and getting legislative support. So we'd like to take a moment of silence to remember him. Visitation will be held on Thursday at the Onco Center in Moorhead, and his memorial service will be Friday at the Avalon Event Center in Fargo. Moving back to the agenda, is there a motion to approve the order of agenda moving items 1, 2, and 21 from the consent agenda to the regular agenda?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Minutes. Is there a motion to approve the minutes of December 2nd, 2019 regular meeting?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any changes or discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carried. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda items 1 through 35, excluding 1, 2, and 21, which have been moved to the regular agenda?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded, roll call vote.
Greenberg.
Aye.
Pepcorn.
Aye.
Garrig.
yes,
Strand.
Yes.
Mahoney.
Aye. Move to the regular agenda. Update on the tap ride service to the industrial park. Matt Peterson to explain.
Mr. Mayor, Commissioners, thank you. Back in August 5th, we started the new Tap Right Industrial Park service. So that was about 4 months ago. And you guys had asked for an update on how the service was going so that we can kind of plan through the 17-month pilot project that we have for this service. Currently, you guys have approved funding for this service through the end of 2020, December 31st of 2020, as a pilot project. So today I'm here to show you kind of some of the ridership statistics, some information about the service, just to give you that update. These are a little bit small. I do have them bigger for you. This is by day of week, so for weekday hours, Monday through Friday, and then each of the bars on the bottom are 1 hour time frames. As you can see, the ridership is kind of sporadic. It's very similar to what we expected for this type of service in the industrial park, having shift work. So we have that morning period where we have the riders going to work or coming home. We kind of have a little bit of a lull. Then we have that afternoon period, a lull, and then of course the evening service. That's pretty consistent Monday through Friday. Friday is the only one that's probably a little bit different. I don't know if the shift work is changed then, but we don't have quite as much ridership on Friday. But Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday are all pretty similar. Saturday is quite small. We have very little ridership on Saturday. We're not quite sure why that is, if it's just that some of the individuals who may be trying to get jobs up there haven't gotten them yet. The ones who work up there have enough seniority that they're Monday through Friday. We have to dig into that a little bit more. But overall ridership, since August 5th through November 30th, we have provided just over 1,500 rides. So for a service that's less than 6 months old, that's actually pretty good. You know, when you look at it on bar graphs, like, well, those numbers don't look great, but in all honesty, when it comes to transit and a route that's so new, 1,500 rides in that time frame is actually fairly decent, is what we would consider. This bar graph does represent that same kind of trend that we were seeing for that Monday through Friday, where we have that morning peak, that little lull, that afternoon peak, and then that evening peak. The 10 to 11 o'clock is when everyone's heading home, and then that 6 to 7, they're either heading home or to work, and then that 3 to 4 time frame. We do have some partners. Sorry, I did that backwards. So overall summary, we have the natural downtimes that show up with the service that we did expect. Again, ridership less than 6 months old. We're pretty happy with it. We'd like to see where it's at in another 6 months and another year. A couple of items to consider though with looking at this data. We have been asked by West Fargo about including the West Fargo Industrial Park. We weren't quite sure what to expect with this type of a service, and with the ridership that we're seeing, it's safe to say that we could probably start talking with West Fargo and include that service in there. I think it would fit pretty nicely and hopefully increase overall ridership. The second thing is we could look at other areas of service with this service, whether it's another zone, increasing the zone, doing something like that to kind of incorporate some more ridership if there are some other undermet areas of that area of town. And then also looking at operating hours and maybe making some service adjustments. Right now, that service is performed by 3 different drivers throughout the day. There are no scheduled breaks in there just because the type of service that it is. So, you know, some of those times where we have those naturally occurring low spots of ridership, we might be able to shut the service down for an hour, give the driver a break, you know, call it good, kind of give that benefit to the driver. Just seeing what those trends are. We wouldn't probably recommend that for another 3 months just so that we can kind of see how that ridership is going to play out, but that's where we're at today. And then we have had some partners that have reached out to us. Marvin Windows, They have two locations, one in West Fargo Industrial Park and one in the Fargo Industrial Park. And they actually put together a video for Tap Ride that they're incorporating into all their new hire employment. So I brought that video with today. It's about 2 minutes. I'll show that to you. They did a really nice job on this. So.
Have you ever needed a ride somewhere? Maybe you don't want to drive in bad weather. Or you and your spouse are sharing a vehicle. Or your car breaks down. Well, now you can skip the walk and just tap. Tap Ride is an on-demand service within the MAT bus system and the industrial park. It's available Monday through Friday from 6:15 a.m. to 11:15 p.m. and Saturday from 7:15 a.m. to 11:15 p.m. To and from anywhere in the industrial park and to a designated transit hub, which grants you access to the MAT bus system. Currently, Tap Ride is only offered in Fargo and isn't available for the West Fargo locations at this time. But if you are a Fargo employee and could benefit from this, you can download the Tap Ride app on your smartphone. Once you have the app set up and your profile registered, you can select Request Ride at the bottom of the screen. Next, select your pickup location. Then, we'll pick our drop-off destination. If you scroll down at the bottom, you'll find the two designated transit hubs, one at Whale of a Wash and the other at West Acres Mall. Once you've made your selections, select Confirm Ride. In the confirmation screen, you can request a ride for up to 10 passengers. You can also request access to the bike rack or wheelchair securement if needed. Finally, submit your ride at the bottom of the screen, and you'll receive an ETA of when the bus will arrive. Once you arrive at the transit hub, you can use the MAT bus system to assist you in getting home. You can also use Tap Ride to get picked up at the transit hub and take you to work as well. For riders that do not have a smartphone or need assistance, please call the dispatch line at 701-232-7500. Tap Ride was started by the City of Fargo and the United Way and is currently in its pilot run. We realize this doesn't meet every transportation need, but if Tap Ride can help with one route or another, you can find more information on the MAT Bus website.
So like I said, that's a video that Marvin Windows had put together for their employees. They were gracious enough to let us use it so we can upload that to our website, kind of an instructional guide for people who might want help with the service, see how it works. I'll let you fix that, Greg. Any questions?
Mr. Grinberg?
Great presentation. Have you shared this with United Way?
Yes, so the video, you mean, or this
Your
information?
presentation, your data, and your updates?
Yes, so the data and the video and everything has been shared with United Way. I do have to meet with them again to go over some other items, but yes, we've been staying in pretty good contact.
Commissioner Pepcorn?
And so, Mr. Chair, so Matt, the whole thing with West Fargo, I think that's a great idea. So if you want a motion, or John, if you want to make the motion, that's fine with me, but I think that's going to be a great addition, and I think it'd be a great combination. So can I just ask you about Saturday? So what are some of the things? Is there something we could do, or do you think it'd be wise to just discontinue it on Saturday, or what are you looking at there?
So again, right now I wouldn't look at doing any changes to the service hours for about another 3 months. So I'm thinking like March timeframe. We're only about 5 months into this pilot, so people are just kind of getting in, using the service. Some of those busy times are about 4 rides per hour. So when it comes to Saturday, I'd like to wait until about March to really make any recommendations on what we should do with that service. But, and I'd also like to talk with United Way a little bit as well. They've been doing a lot of outreach with people who have been interested in the service and wanting to use this service. And so I just think it needs a little bit more time for us to evaluate if Saturday is something that we want to continue.
So I guess I'll just make the motion that we open it to at least begin negotiating or talking with the West Fargo Commission, because I think that'd be a great addition.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Commissioner Strand, you wanted to comment?
I'll comment after this motion.
Mr. Garrick, you okay?
That sounds good.
So no discussion on the motion, or you want to just vote?
have another question separate from the motion.
Okay, moved and seconded, roll call vote.
Pepcorn?
Aye.
Strand?
Yes.
Garrick?
Yes.
Grinberg?
Aye.
Mahoney?
Aye. Commissioner Strand?
Matt, how's it going for folks getting to the transit hubs? And do you guys see any improvements or needs or opportunities there to get them there?
Yeah, so with the transit hubs, the Whale will wash up on 12th Avenue North is a little bit weird because we only have one vehicle that goes there, so that's not as popular as our West Acres location. But overall, they're able to access that pretty well with the rest of our system. They're able to hop on a bus wherever they're at, get to West Acres, and then call for the tap ride service. When the tap ride service does not have any passengers on board or any current requests coming in, they're typically at West Acres, and so we see quite a few flag down stops. Fixed route vehicle rolls in, one or two people get off, and they just wave to the driver. He comes over, enters them into the computer, and off they go. So it's working pretty well.
Lastly, I'd like to say this is just great news. You know, for this partnership with the United Way and with the business community, it's about jobs. And it's about access to jobs and it's workforce development. This is just really a good path we're on, and congratulations to you and your staff and your team and everybody for exceeding our expectations so early.
Thank you.
Thank you, Matt. Public hearings, item 37, continuance to 2720. It's an alley vacation, lot 12, block 26, and part of block 7, and all lots 8 through 12. Do I have a motion for continuance?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second?
Roll call vote.
Grinberg?
Aye.
Pepcorn?
Aye.
Garrick?
Yes.
Strand?
Yes.
Mahoney?
Aye. Item 38, applications for property tax exemption for improvement made to buildings. Do I have a motion?
I so move.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Pepcorn?
Aye.
Grinberg?
Aye.
Garrick?
Yes.
Strand? Mahoney?
Aye. Appointments to the City Hall Auditorium Commission. You have my recommendations. Is there
So moved.
a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Discussion. Roll call vote.
Strand?
Yes.
Grinberg?
Aye.
Garrick?
Yes.
Pepcorn?
Aye.
Mahoney?
Aye. Item 40, recommendation to approve the 2020 capital improvement plan and the 2021 through 23 federal aid arterial and water main replacement projects. This was discussed at our last meeting, and this vote today would be approve the CIP plan. Brenda Daring has a presentation?
No,
No?
not today.
Oh, okay.
So I did my CIP last commission meeting. I presented on our proposed 2020 capital improvement plan, along with the 2021 through the 2023 federal aid arterial and water main replacement projects. I did not receive any comments. We did have a couple of changes because we just had some wrong project numbering on there. And so today I would answer any other additional questions. Otherwise, I would request a recommendation to concur with PUPEC's findings and approve those projects.
Do I have a motion?
I so move.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Commissioner Garrick?
Mr. Mayor. Yep, thank you. Brenda, you and I spoke on the phone a couple times since the last meeting, and the concern revolved around the amount we're special assessing within the CIP. My basic premise to you was, I understand that individuals or homeowners and business owners will be paying less because we're going from a 50-50 basically to a, call it 70-30 or an 80-20 using the Prairie Dog bill. However, are we special assessing more because we have that outside money coming in, or are we kind of toeing the line with the amount we're special assessing per year in the aggregate as a whole?
So yes, Commissioner Gary and myself did have a conversation today. And so some of the discussion we had is that, you know, if you look back at our proposed CIP when we started the budget process, and as we went through the assessment, special assessment and the infrastructure funding policy, we reevaluated those project costs and our budget, and we've actually taken 2 of those projects out to make sure that we stay within our budget. And so it's really a balance of looking at trying to maintain within the budget that we have and then also maintaining that infrastructure, making sure the infrastructure is maintained moving forward also. And so we are balancing it. We haven't added a large amount of projects. I mean, we added back in the water main replacement projects, and that's what you'll see. One of the things we talked about is every year is a little bit different. So you might see a couple more streetlight projects because we do still have some dark areas in the existing parts of Fargo. So this year our traffic's higher than it was last year because this year we have some larger streetlight projects in that CIP. So we are just working to maintain and stay within that CIP budget.
Does that answer your question?
It does, and just overall going forward, I was and still am a little bit uncomfortable with the amount we're special assessing. I don't think people are seeing a huge reduction in the amount we're spending relative to what we've been doing the last couple of years. I think we've seen an increase in the amount we're special assessing. However, this is a CIP, this is a plan, and if we see that we're doing too much and people push back, we can always change that plan. This is a guideline, and therefore I'll go ahead and go with it.
When we approve this, Brenda, does this set the table for the next 4 years, but yet it can be modified depending on needs?
Correct. It sets the table so that we can start communicating with those areas that we're looking to do water main replacement projects and get them ready to see one coming within their development. But it also gives us the flexibility we need as we understand new redevelopment might come in and it might shift some things. So we're trying to stay flexible with that idea also.
Very good. Any other discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Pepcorn? Aye. Grinberg?
Aye.
Garrick?
Yes.
Strand? Mahoney?
Aye. Item 41, recommendation to approve the project as presented for submittal to MetroCog for inclusion of the city's applications for North Dakota DOT for funding in 2022 and 2024. Jeremy Gordon to explain.
Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. This item comes before you on an annual basis, us asking MetroCog and North Dakota DOT for some federal aid funding for our roads and bridges and other types of projects. So I'll go through the projects that are programmed. They were included with what Brenda just said, but these are just the federal aid projects. These are the large projects that really set the table for the rest of the CIPs in future years. So this is a project on Main Avenue. The yellow portion is the portion on Main that we just finished up to Broadway. So that's bid out. You actually just concurred with the North Dakota DOT bid on your consent agenda. So this is going to happen next year. The next project is 64th Avenue South project, 2 miles in length. You'll see the years in there, 20, 21, 22. The yellow is what we're going to move ahead with bidding out this coming year. And then both shades of blue are going to be done in 21 and finish up in 22. North University, the mile stretch east of the airport there from 32nd Avenue up to County 20. We're currently working with the airport and FAA on the design on that. 32nd Avenue, this is programmed 2022. This is another portion. You're going to see 2 projects on 32nd Avenue. So you can see the yellow is the project we completed 2 years ago. This red project is programmed to go from 23rd Street to 32nd Street. Happened in 2 years. Main Avenue in 2023. That'll be the final portion on Main Avenue from University to 25th Street, or just short of 25th Street to the railroad tracks. And another project, 2023, 52nd Avenue to wrap up what we're finishing this year or in the spring next year. Yellow is what we just wrapped up. So this is at a glance, those are the program projects that these are in the pipeline.
Any questions?
Well, this is just till it's programmed.
Oh, I'm
Good
sorry.
stuff is coming. So the projects that we're going to be asking for in 2022 is an urban grant program. We have one of those, and we've asked for it. I think this will be our 3rd time. for the pedestrian bridge over Second Street adjacent to City Hall, right behind you there. So that's the one.
And how would that be funded? Would that be funded 100% federal, or we have to put some money into it?
That'd be, we're asking for 80% federal, 20% would be local, and then we would pay the engineering and construction inspection as well. So that's the urban grant program pot of money. Now I got 3 projects for the urban roads. The first priority in 2024 would be the ramps to make this a full interchange down at 64th. The second priority is $1.25 million to replace 3 buses in the transit. And the third priority is to finish off the last leg of 32nd Avenue from University to basically 25th Street. So the urban regional, this is money set aside for the U.S. highways in town, or business 9481. So this is 19th Avenue North by the airport to I-29. The portion in yellow has already been done. We wouldn't have to touch that. And then the last project is pretty small in nature. It's just a highway railroad grade crossing surface upgrade on 3rd Avenue North by 19th Street. And all these go to MetroCog, and then they rank them, policy board approves them and sends it to DOT. So these will actually be on their way to DOT. They're needed at the end of January. So here's the list in a spreadsheet format. You can see the scale of them. The 64th Avenue project is the largest at just a hair over 18 million. But really all the projects have a pretty big price tag. So with that, I can answer any questions that you may have.
Mr. Grinberg?
Jeremy, these are all captured in the CIP plan as well, right?
Yeah, no, these actually aren't. So this is the 5th year out. So
5th year, okay. But everything up to the 5th year is?
yeah, yeah.
Mr. Pepcar?
Oh, Mr. Chair, Jeremy, can you go back a slide to show 19th Avenue, or maybe it's 2 slides?
Yep.
And I only one request is that can we try to work with the FAA to mitigate the snow blowing, and if there's ways with the construction that there's some changes that we can make, because we've been trying to work on that for a while and haven't had much luck, but if there's some ways that you can incorporate that. And then I had one more question was about the whole thing with MetroCog, with the census next year, and can you talk a little bit about that, how that will change once we reach a certain number, and will that affect some of this?
Yeah, I'm glad you brought up the snow drifting. We are working on that, the east side on that portion. We're making sure that road, when we do rebuild it, it's either at grade or higher than it is existing grade. And then down here, we will be raising that near where the runway is, nearly 3 feet or so during design. So we're not there yet, but we know about those issues. And then MetroCog, so once the metro region reaches 200,000, Federal Highway looks at that region differently. So we'll become a transportation management agency or area. I'm not quite sure what the term is, but so the metro area, MetroCog will get a direct allocation from Federal Highway versus having to go through North Dakota DOT and get our funds shepherded through them. So that could happen as soon as 2022. So we're asking for $2024, but they're kind of just proceeding as we always have until that becomes more official. So they've been trying to figure out what the annual allocation for the metro would be, and it's right around $12.5 million. So now it's probably, over the years historically, we've probably been at that number, combining all those pots of fund. So, but it'll be MetroCog and the policy board will have a much bigger say in how these funds get spent. We will no longer have to be asking Bismarck, can we please have these funds to build this project? MetroCog, as long as we're following the federal rules, we'll be able to do what we want.
Just one more thing, Mr. Chair. So we're also working with the Minnesota DOT, because they'll obviously be working with us too, correct?
Correct.
But the number with the North Dakota DOT, it'll be kind of a interim period, because we're already talking to them right now, correct? And so we're the only one that's in North Dakota, so this is kind of new ground for them too. So it's been interesting. They're not all that excited about losing about 30% of their budget And so that's part of the challenge a little bit.
Yeah, it's all a work in progress, but the new director out there at DOT is very energetic. The mayor, I think you've had a discussion or two with him. He looks forward to the change as well.
Good. Mr. Strand?
Thank you, Mayor. Jeremy, I have a question coming from a different perspective, and I'm just curious more than anything. Years ago, I used to have a close affiliation with folks up in Grafton, for example, and they had waited 17 years for their urban roads project to rise to the top of the pile to then get approval to get their Main Street project done. And then it seemed like out of the blue, they just got knocked to the bottom of the pile. And of course, they weren't as big as Fargo at that point. Do we know, I just want assurance that we're not like cannibalizing, or that's not the right word, we're not undermining other smaller towns' projects as their priorities that they've been waiting for years, and that they're getting their fair shake all along, and we're supporting them as well, and we're not like jostling ourselves up and to their disadvantage?
No, that's a good question. So in the state of North Dakota, there's either 11 or 12 cities that qualify to be urban. I think Grafton may be one of them. And the DOT does set aside X amount of dollars per city. And they kind of, what's funny is that, what's interesting is, let's say they get $30 million for the urban program on the state level. They need to spend that $30 million annually or come close to it. So they kind of give cities, their annual allocation, and it starts to add up. But it has to be spent. So they have a running tally of what's going of each city and how they're spending. But we don't steal any. The money is all shared, and we don't steal from other folks. So us and West Fargo kind of have a running total right around $5 million, and we go up and we go down, but that's all worked in on the state level.
Thank you for that. And in the end, Grafton got that project through, but it wasn't easy. My message is to folks out there is that all of our people are from all those towns out there. And we support their towns, and we don't undermine them. And I just wanted reassurance that's indeed the case.
Mr. Chair, can I add one more thing real quick?
Corn.
So John, I just want to give you one example. So MetroCog, we would make a list of projects and we would forward it out to DOT, and they would disregard it. And so now MetroCog will make the list and implement it. And so it was actually just the opposite. They were just randomly disregarding, and they were well thought out. So anyway, and you're on the MetroCog board, so I would encourage you to talk to Cindy about it, because the way it's going to be is we will decide and we'll implement it, which is a good thing. And no offense to the legislature, but sometimes the legislature got involved with the list of projects and we would end up being disregarded. So anyway, I just wanted to give you the other side of the story. So I apologize for that, Mr. Mayor.
But to that point, West Fargo asked for a change one time because they had an area they thought would have a greater need, and that change worked out, but you guys agreed to it locally, that, yep, we'll let them go ahead. So we usually work cooperatively to the greatest need in this community. Any other discussion?
I just want to point out one thing. So on this spreadsheet, you can see 64th Avenue South. So in our urban road balance that the DOT has for Fargo, West Fargo, it's right around 10 million that they say they have eligible for 2024. So we would like all that money in 2024. And then we also are asking $4 million in interstate maintenance, which is us dipping into their pot of money. I don't know how they're going to feel about it. I asked how they were feeling about it, and they didn't get back to me. So it would be 10 million of ours, 4 million of theirs, and then we would find the 4 million local. So they may or may not look favorable on that, but we'll ask anyways.
I think Commissioner Grinberg has a response to that.
They'll have plenty of time to figure it out with us as partners.
Yeah, so just to give you how this works. So we'll send this to Bismarck at the end of January. They'll take a number of months with the other departments to figure out what they want to spend in 2024, and they'll come out with a draft state transportation improvement plan in June or July, and we'll be able to comment on it. If they go to our third priority first, we can certainly talk to them. And then in September is when their plan becomes approved. So this is a long drawn out process.
Just an added
Commissioner
comment,
Grinberg.
I don't know if it's traditionally our approach, but we'll want to have copies of that to all members of our congressional delegation when we file that in January, so they're aware of what's been submitted.
Yeah, certainly.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Did we already motion it? Nope. Do you have a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any other discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Grinberg?
Aye.
Pepcorn?
Aye.
Gehrig?
Yes.
Strand?
Yes.
Mahoney?
Aye. Number one is waive requirement to receive and file ordinance 1 week prior to first reading and first reading the ordinance regarding vehicles for hire. Steve Sprague? I thought this was you and Nancy Morris. Just you? Okay.
I guess it was pulled from the agenda. I'm not sure why.
Mr. Strand?
I'll tell you why. I think it's important we talk about these things rather than just run them through a consent agenda. You know, I know we're reading about it in the news, and I'd like us to have our own level of understanding of why we're doing what we're doing and what the implications are. It's that simple.
Okay, sure. Let's see. A couple of weeks ago, we put something on the agenda to extend the current licenses, which all expire at the end of the year here. We requested till March 31st so that we can work with Nancy, have meetings with the taxis and the transportation companies to come up with an ordinance that we think will work. I want to roll back now a little bit and tell you a little bit of history on this. Our old ordinance used to have very specific details about what should be on a taxi cab. They should be letters in 3-inch size, in an alternate color from what the color of the vehicle is, and other different details like that. When Uber and Lyft came to town, and the state said, you know, the state rules were that we couldn't do any local regulation over Uber and Lyft, we kind of changed our ordinance. We actually repealed and reenacted the current ordinance and made it a transportation vehicles ordinance rather than just a taxi cab ordinance. And so it relates to all of them. While we did that, we took away some of the requirements that were in there for the vehicles. And so what we feel that we're seeing and what we're hearing, especially from the airport, is that some of the vehicles that are out there they're little more than their personal vehicles with a light bar slapped on top that says taxi or something like that. So we think we need to have a little bit more control over that and see that the vehicles are inspected and that they're marked as a taxi, and that we're getting background checks for the drivers, and that the taxi meters are permanently displayed so that you can see what's in there. And so those are some of the things that we're talking about. We've set up a meeting, I think it's January 9th, with the taxi cab companies. We've sent them letters, and so we really haven't heard anything back from the companies themselves. But the overall goal of this is to make it so that we have a safe vehicle out there for our public to ride in.
Mr. Strand?
If I might continue, I don't recall the names, but in other cities, there even are examples, I understand, of people getting almost volunteer donation ride-hailing services. So the trend is going more toward affordability and access across the board. So if, in your discussions, maybe you really broaden it to see what's coming to us. Sure. I'm not sure how soon that'll hit Fargo, but there are places you can walk out in the street and hail a ride, and it might not be identified as a tax at all, or it might be free to you, or you donate what you can.
Yeah, one of the concerns with Uber and Lyft is they operate when they want to. So if at 3 in the morning you need a taxi cab, Uber and Lyft may not respond. And so that's why we feel that it's important to have a vibrant taxi service in Fargo that will respond to your call 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
And to your other point, John, is that sometimes if you don't have the meter running, you have no idea. And we've had people who thought they were going from the airport for $20 and they've been charged 40. So the counter to that works as well. So I think what Steve's trying to do is make the public know what they're being charged right up front rather than trying to add on to it. We want to protect the public a little bit. And I think you also have read on Uber and such, we've had some assaults as well. So there are some checks of the drivers as well. So we need to toughen up that ordinance a little bit better That's not what we're passing, we're just delaying, and they will come back to us with an ordinance.
And my last thought is I'm guessing that folks like, from our mass transit, will have input or abilities to input and interact and think out loud of how this meshes with what they offer.
Sure. In fact, that brings up a good segue into, we received some communication from Commissioner Grinberg regarding another city in North Dakota that has a requirement that their taxis have at least one company that have a handicapped accessibility. But here in Fargo, we have whole companies that are based on that model. And so, to put that further restriction, we'll see where that goes. We're going to bring it into the discussion. But, that's, I don't know that Bismarck has a handicap vehicle, company that's out there to service that population.
Mr. Grinberg.
Chairman and Steve, I'm just gonna thank you for bringing that up because that was important to me, and I've had a number of folks contact me about that option. And as I shared the Bismarck ordinance with you, I hope that is taken to heart and evaluated, and then there's an apples and apples comparison, what Bismarck has and what we have. If it still fits a need, maybe it's an awareness issue as well, but
Sure.
That's important to a lot of folks that reside in Fargo. So.
And or knowing what service is available, I think that'd be important to the public. Do I have a motion?
I make the recommended motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any other discussion? Roll call vote, please. Whoops, I'm sorry, Commissioner Garrick.
Thank you. Steve, if you're still up there, have we had more problems with an Uber or Lyft than, say, with taxis, as far as, like, the merit just kind of drops, hey, there's been issues with assaults or things like that. Is that uncommon to Uber and Lyft relative to taxi cabs?
Steve, did you understand the question?
I'm not sure that I do. Are you asking whether or not we're having assaults with Uber and a Lyft here in town?
I'm wondering if it's any worse or better with a taxi cab versus an Uber or a Lyft.
Well, I think one thing with Uber and Lyft, because of the app and the way the app works, as long as you're paying attention, the person that's supposed to come and pick you up, you've identified that.
Yeah. The
taxi cab, you really don't know who it is. You're just getting into a vehicle with somebody that you're assuming has been, that the background check has been done and that they're a safe person to be with.
And I agree with that. With this new ordinance, when you're talking about like background checks, things like that, is this extending to Uber and Lyft drivers? That's the way I understood it.
No, does not extend to Uber and Lyft. The state law that was passed when Uber and Lyft came to the state of North Dakota prohibits any local jurisdiction, any local governance. So we really have no way to look into who's driving Uber and Lyft.
Gotcha. Okay, that was my misunderstanding, because I believe that Uber and Lyft and these other rideshare programs have been a blessing for Fargo and our community surrounding us. I think DUIs are down because of them. You used to see literally fights outside of bars in downtown Fargo because there weren't enough taxis for people to take, and now I just have not heard that problem in recent past. So anything that makes Uber and Lyft hard to do, I would be opposed to. But it sounds like this is not it, and I'm happy to hear that.
No, this is just to help assure our traveling public that the taxi cabs that they get into are operating, they're a safe vehicle, and the person driving them are safe, and that the rates are posted, and just those types of things.
And you could probably look to an app that would put who your driver is, just like Uber and Lyft, and then the person would have that, concur that you need to do that. In New York or Washington, they always have the name and the driver posted for you. But we should look at a computer way of doing that too.
Well, at least if it's not done computer-wise, at least that's one of the things that we've considered too, is listing the name of the company that they're working for and a picture of the driver. Those are all things that we're considering.
Very good. Any other discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Strand?
Yes.
Grinberg?
Aye.
Garrick?
Yes.
Pepcorn?
Aye.
Mahoney?
Aye. Item 2, second reading and final adoption of ordinance relating to classification of ordinance violations. First reading was 2/12/19. Is there, Nancy Morris, do you want to take this one, and Chief Todd as well? I keep trying to get Nancy up there, but you're reluctant to get, I thought this was part of your work as well.
Well, it is, and thank you. So I am not sure what questions.
Mr. Strand, I think, brought this up.
Thank you. I guess my question was this, and I'm not sure this is the proper venue to vet this discussion, but it's been suggested out there that we might be setting ourselves up for litigation with this path we're on. And all I care about is that we've thoroughly discussed it, and we're all very comfortable that we're not walking into, head-on into those suggestions or threats of litigation. And if that would be more appropriate for us to go into executive session, perhaps, in a future meeting, I would say let's just simply schedule it on an agenda. If that's the case, I'm not sure your advice. I just wanted to hear our thinking on it and have that not danced around if that's a concern or if it isn't a concern.
Certainly a legitimate question, Commissioner Strand. I know there's been a couple of articles and some talk radio commentary regarding this, and every time that has happened, I've had a conversation with Nancy regarding those things, and I think Nancy can tell you that she's conferred with her colleagues and as well as city attorneys in other cities throughout the state here, as well as I believe the League of Cities attorneys, and we feel fairly comfortable where we're at.
And I would concur with those statements. I could assure you that we did extensive research in response to those media reports. This has been researched and considered by myself as well as others, including the League of Cities Council and the North Dakota State Legislature that passed Senate Bill 2304 to allow this fine structure to be modified, and other cities that have gone before us, which is including Grand Forks, Bismarck, and West Fargo. It is our position, and we would relay to you that the law simply does not support that the fine structures violate the equal protection law of the Constitution. Cities have a legitimate interest in protecting the health and safety of its traveling public and its residents, and that the increased deterrence of the fine structure would serve that purpose. Again, no change in law is without some risk to litigation, but we do feel that we have researched this topic thoroughly.
I might add, the feedback I've had from the general public is very supportive of this direction, and people think we need more teeth, so you have something to enforce. But I just wanted to make sure that we've asked that question in a due diligence sense. I'm very comfortable with our advice. And
however, I mean, if you would be even more comfortable pushing this off a meeting and having an executive session for Nancy to explain some of the case law behind why she feels she does, we certainly could do that also.
Chief Todd, I would like to bring up one thing. People talk about like reckless driving and some other fines that you did not increase, and you say there's some rules around that you couldn't do that.
Yeah, Nancy and I conferred quite a bit about this and wanted to be careful about the research that was done on this to make sure that the changes that we did make fell within what the legislature allowed, the parameters with that, and Nancy can speak a little bit more to that.
Well, what I can address is that the legislature allowed changes in a particular statute, 3906.1, and so we went through all of the traffic offenses and offenses that were identified in that statute to confirm that they were in fact the ordinances we were changing.
So just for public concern, is that one time we increased our fees in traffic laws, and then it was found unconstitutional, we had to pay all those fines back. What is it that makes you sure that this is going to be not questioned or have us have payback?
I believe you're referring to the Sabi case, and I know Eric is probably more intimately familiar with that case, but in that situation, there was not a statute that directly provided for municipal authority to raise the fines, and in this instance there is. So it's been permitted by the North Dakota legislature.
Thank you. Eric, do you want to comment on that?
I'll just add one thing. So we were relying upon our home rule powers to increase the fines above the state levels. The court, when the question was put to the Supreme Court, they didn't agree with that. Now that the state legislature has authorized cities to do it, it's a different scenario then.
Okay. Do I have a motion?
I'll make the motion. Oh, I'm sorry. Sorry. No, go.
For the sake of,
I'll take the motion, but I'll allow John to talk in between. That's
I
fine.
might make a
Commissioner
different motion than you.
Strand. Okay, then,
My
Motion to approve with the original, what was proposed.
Second.
I move to amend that to, we delay that till the next meeting until after we've had an executive session, just to hear what I'd like us to hear. And I fully expect to support it then. I just want to do all my due diligence at every level. That'd be my comfort level. It doesn't matter if it is with you folks, but, so I'd move we table it to the next meeting and go into an executive session, put it on the agenda, and then follow it in the regular meeting.
is there a second to the amendment to the motion?
Can I ask a technical question? So we already have a motion and a second, so how would this go?
You can offer an amendment, but the amendment would have to be voted yes, so.
So I'll just give you my, and you can interpret it. I have no problem with this. There's no rush for us, and I think if that provides an additional level of comfort, then I think that's fine. So if you want me to make the motion, or if you want me to change my
You
motion,
just second his amendment.
I'll second the amendment.
And my thinking is this, is we don't need to just put this on your shoulders. This needs to be on our shoulders too. And then when the buck stops on anybody's desk, it stops also on ours. So that's my thinking. I don't expect any turning this upside down, but just that'd be my thinking, due diligence.
So our first vote will be a roll call vote on the amendment. Two votes. If you approve the amendment, then we'll vote on the original motion. So it's a motion to amend the first motion.
My amendment was to,
That's correct.
That trumps it.
how do you have it, Diana?
The only motion on the table is Commissioner Strand's now.
Amended motion.
And the amendment was to
Table it.
table it till the next meeting until after an executive session at the same meeting.
It's continued to date certain.
Yeah.
So we're accepting one vote on this? Okay?
Wasn't really an amendment, it was a motion to put it on for the next meeting, actually, kind of a table motion.
Table the first motion.
Table the first motion. that's
Whatever will be legal, Eric, if we just vote on this and that'll be it?
Yep,
Is that
we're just gonna
effective
table
as
it
a
till the
team?
next meeting, yep.
Yep. Okay, roll call vote.
Strand?
Yes.
Pepcorn?
Aye.
Gehrig? Grinberg? Mahoney?
Aye. Item 21, direct the city attorney to prepare a necessary ordinance or amendment to an existing ordinance that will remove parking from streets, avenues after 4 more inches of snow have fallen, and the mayor declares a snow emergency. This, they again just wanted a little discussion here, Ben, so I'll let you start.
Yeah, absolutely, Mayor, Commissioners. What we have here is what we discussed a little bit at the last commission. We're not moving to take any action on ordinance. We're just simply asking the city commission's authority to work with the city attorney to work on an ordinance or change an existing ordinance. You know, some of the things that we've learned over even the last 2 snowstorms we faced by looking at the data, you know, when we're working around all these vehicles, we look at plow times and what's taking so long and why is it taking slower. When we're plowing around vehicles, I noticed in areas, we're about 5 miles an hour. When we're out in different areas where there's not a lot of vehicles parked, we're plowing at 10 miles an hour. So when you look at that, that's where we're bringing this stuff forward to our commissioners to say, hey, this is something we can look at for future that could benefit the city and our residents and our taxpayers to avoid adding extra resources. Currently, our 15 zones have about 50 miles. So when you look at the 5 versus the 10, you can kind of do the math pretty quick that at 5 miles an hour, it'll take us 10 hours. At 10 miles an hour.
And Ben, we're already getting snow, so my curiosity is how soon will you have this ordinance ready for us?
So that was by plan, by me. I wanted to hold off until the snow was in the air because if you do this stuff in the middle of the summer, there's a lot of people that forget, myself included. We get through and May hits and flowers grow and sun's shining, we're at the lakes. But it's important to do this stuff when we're in the heat of it so that it's fresh in everybody's memory.
So our 30-day, 2 weeks, when are you gonna have the ordinance in front of us?
So we're not looking to bring anything forward as far as a final or second reading till sometime in February. We'll bring and receive and file in January, first reading towards the end of January. second reading in February, and then hopefully if everything passes and everything is acceptable, sometime in February, this would go into place, which will work good to educate people, spend some time throughout the rest of the winter working on that, so when we head into winter for next year, we can hit the ground running.
My only concern is by February, you might have 26 inches of snow and the cars are already parked away from the curb and we have a much more difficult time. In that time frame, is there any ability to move that up a little bit?
I think it's important that we allow our residents the time to speak and get up here during the reading and receive and file to hear some of their thoughts and to hear some of their practices. We want to make sure that we get this right. We can throw something through and go real fast with it and then have regrets, or we can spend just a little bit more time and listen to the folks and our residents and our customers out there to make sure we're doing this right.
Could you do a brown bag sometime just to get public input?
Sure can.
Thanks. Commissioner Pepcorn?
Mr. Chair, so the one thing I want to relay to people, because we've all gotten contacts from a lot of people that are very concerned about this issue. The one thing I want to say is this is not a constitutional amendment. It's not, if we pass it and we're going to learn lessons when we start implementing it, we can make some changes, because there's some people, it's change, and there's lots of people that are very concerned. And I just want to reiterate, people are going to have lots of time for public comment. That's a great thing. But the other thing is, once it's implemented, if there's some things that need to be changed, we can change it. We don't have to get a marble tablet and break the tablet apart. It's just, we can make adjustments. So it's kind of like a pilot project, right, Ben? So if there's things that he comes back and says, here's some refinements, we can do that. So and not to talk about Green Bay quarterbacks when he said, relax, RELAX. That's what we got to do. Everyone gets so wound up about this. So thank you.
I think the important thing is to realize that some of this stuff we're looking at isn't going to affect certain parts of town. We do already have parking ordinance in our downtown. We know we have to haul that. We know that this is not based on downtown. This is based on areas that we're having significant parking problems. In a lot of areas it won't even affect because they have their cars off the street anyway.
Very good. Mr. Strand?
Lastly, Ben, the public appetite is there for some change. And you're doing a good job leading us on a path that will help them. So I thank you for that. I think the people thank you for that, and they're eager to have some evolution of our practices so that you don't have some of the problems that they're also having.
There is support for this out there. We've heard that there is support. There is also that it's going to affect negatively. We got to find that medium ground that works for everybody.
Good work on this. Thank you. Do I have a motion?
I so move.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call vote.
Strand?
Yes.
Grinberg?
Aye.
Garrig?
Yeah.
Pepcorn?
Aye.
Mahoney?
Aye. Yeah, Tony, you're not in any snow right now, but we got another 4 inches over the weekend when you come back. I think Commissioner Strand, you want to make a comment. It's usually somebody's holiday or birthday.
Well, sometimes we hit it big and sometimes not. Bruce Grubb turns 60 years old on Thursday, so, Bruce, I just want you to know we're all going to be with you on that day. And Commissioner Grinberg's birthday is the 21st, so happy birthday to both of you.
Thank you. Is there a motion to adjourn?
I so move.
Is there a second?
Merry Christmas.
And happy birthday to Bruce Grubb.
Moved seconded. All those in favor say aye. We're adjourned.